Again, we're with the virus, so I'm going to be teaching about that. The one thing that I'm going to talk about is the relationship to how the virus is developing and how it gets to the way it is today, such as a higher level of people getting the virus, many more states getting the virus, and numbers are going up. Hospitals, again, are filling up. And a lot of things are going on that looks like we're just now beginning, and you never had it before, and we're just now beginning again in a whole brand new process of the virus, which will be the truth. That's the way we're going to have to see it, that it comes in cycles. The stupider we are and the more we misbehave, the larger amount it comes into our process, into the hospitals and into our loved ones and into our workplace and all the different things that make up our life. Yeah, so this virus is not going to go away. It could stay with us for a very, very long time. Even if we get a vaccine for it, we have to take that vaccine. We have to get through that vaccine. We have to find out whether or not that vaccine really does work for the general population. And if it does, then we're doing much better. If it doesn't, then it will continue as this goes on. So right now, we don't have a vaccine. Right now, we barely are doing testing, and very little is being done in order to protect each other from the growth of the virus. Much more in the relationship of getting back to the way it was. Yeah, nothing changing, and all going back to any restaurant they want to go to, any place they want to go to, any football game they want to go to, everything they want to go to. So those are all in the mind. Those are not things that have happened quite yet. They've happened in some cases, and in all of those cases, there's been a spike in the number of people getting the virus. Yeah, so they're finding that it's really not the time to open up and let things go back to the way it was. Yeah, so we have a number of things that have happened. Yeah, and we have the riots, which increase the virus, and a lot of those people weren't from that locale. They were traveling and going from place to place, and many of them from the West Coast. So we see the West Coast and Arizona and many other states increasing in the virus, mainly because they were the protesters. They were the people gathering in large numbers, and now they went home, and now they're sick, and now they're in the hospital. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen directly in that spot. Yeah, just like right now, tomorrow in Tulsa, we're going to have a large convention by the President of the United States, and he has decided that he's going to go against absolutely everybody, and by law and everything. There is no large form of people that have been allowed to gather up to this moment and as of today. Yeah, nowhere, because it's too dangerous. And if we do, then we're going to gather and get very sick. And those who are, slightly ill and have diabetes or other processes, 55 and above, yeah, then the chances of them dying are going through a long-term debilitation and a lowering of the lifespan that they will have in this life by the thousands. Yeah, is going to happen from that convention. And I'm not the one person who says this. This is a very big known fact. I'm just sharing the truth, and it's not really synthesized in a way in which it should be. So my job is kind of help to get that in an understandable way. So let's imagine we've got a large group of people. They've gathered together, and they have a desire to have this great big gathering. And that gathering is going to be a process of, just imagine if you take, what? Everything fine? Yeah, okay. So imagine if you take a group of people and you go into this environment, would you get sick? Yeah. And a lot of people are thinking, no, I'm going to go to the beach, I'm going to go to the bar, I'm going to go to the restaurant. But we haven't talked to those people. We haven't followed those people to see whether or not they got sick. But there just happened to be an event where there were 16 young ladies who all worked together and all decided that they would go out for the night. And in doing so, every single one of them got very, very sick. They all got the virus, every single one of them. Yeah, that just tells you that even though we don't know what's going on, yeah, because we're not testing, yeah, so we have no idea whether or not people got sick or didn't get sick. They just stay home and things like that. But because this was 16 people who were in shock over the fact that every single one of them got sick within days, yeah, so that means that going out is not a good idea, even as an individual or as a group. Yeah, so let me show this to you.
7 workers at a Florida bar and a group of 16 friends who were out for a night of fun all tested positive for coronavirus. Erica Crisp was one of them. She's been sick for a week, but she's here along with 2 of those friends, Kat Layton and Dara. Is it Sweet or Sweat?
It's Sweat.
All right, good to have you. Now, I don't want any of you to sweat. This is not one of these sessions. I'm happy that you are feeling better. You're young. Thank God you didn't get hit the way I did. I just wanted to quickly give each of you a chance to share how you now feel after this experience. Erica, starting with you. I know nobody had masks. It was crowded in there, just like a normal bar. Why did you think it was okay to do it that way, and what do you think now?
I think at the time it was more out of sight, out of mind. We hadn't known anybody who had it personally. Governor, mayor, everybody says it's fine. We go out. It's a friend's birthday. It was a mistake.
How do you feel about it now? You say it's a mistake. What do you want people to think?
I feel foolish. It's too soon. Clearly, it's, we got super sick almost immediately within days.
7 workers at a
the young people of Florida and young people in general, millennials and Gen Z people who think that they're invincible, could see how the infection wreaks havoc. The importance of wearing a mask is not to be taken lightly. It's a very, very important thing. And to also keep your social distance. The reason for that is you have to consider everybody a potential infectious vector. So if I'm sitting in a bar, first of all, I don't know why they're sitting in a bar, but I guess they open the bars. You're close to people. You're sharing beer glasses or perhaps other kinds of drinks. You're hugging and kissing people that you haven't seen for several months. And therein lies the cause and the root of the progressive infection. So yes, we're going to see an uptick in Florida. We're seeing upticks in Texas. We're seeing it everywhere where people are letting their guard down. It's unfortunate, Anne-Marie, but that's what's happening, and that was so predictable.
Mm-hmm. Doctor, as you know, President Trump is getting ready for his first rally since the start of the coronavirus pandemic. One senior official with the administration is now suggesting that those at a high risk of severe illness not attend. You recall, Doctor, the story that we covered and many other news organizations covered of the super spreader who was part of a choir up in Seattle. One person who infected 52 people. It was a horrific story. And I just wonder, when you've got, I believe that venue where this event is happening holds some 19,000, 20,000 plus people. What are the risks inherent? And what advice do you have for those who insist on going?
Well, the risks are clear. If you've got let's go back to the choir with the person who's singing. When you sing, you create a major vapor of saliva, etc. And all those people were unmasked and they're all singing. And that's how 50 some odd people got infected from one infected choir member. Now picture yourself in a Gigundo incubator, the Tulsa amphitheater or whatever it is, where you have several tens of thousands of people all yelling and screaming, most of them probably not wearing masks. So this is like a big experiment. We're going to see the spread of this virus in that group. And I would agree with the organizers that people that have heart disease, lung disease, who are severely diabetic or severely hypertensive should stay away, because they're staring trouble in the face. This is going to be a very big experiment to see if a couple of vectors, and all you need is 2 or 3 people who are infected, who are screaming and yelling, and are going to be spitting on everybody, and those people are going to get infected and spit on other people, and so on and so forth.
Okay, so you get the idea. This is a process that science isn't being involved in. Yeah, science is a scientific process. I'm a scientist, so in dealing with science, you have methodology that goes along with science. It's scientific methodology, and you have to go through a process of being able to slowly but surely recognize through, by theory, through just by conversation of understanding through each doctor, seeing what symptoms are coming up, seeing what are the dilemmas that they're having with trying to use certain antibiotics and things of that nature, and their belief systems, and then all of a sudden they don't work, and they have to break through to come across what really would help. And it takes quite a bit of time. It could take a month or so to get past the ignorant process of diagnosis and the ignorant process of the natural scientific methodology. And they have to use that methodology in order to come across the right answer and the right way of dealing with it the quickest way. Yeah, it's not by, let's just do whatever we want, and have belief systems without sharing the information, without understanding the information as it's being collected, and then develop that data and use that data in order to become more informed. And as it becomes more of an illness that comes back later, we are much more informed. Now we have some kind of vaccine that may help with it, or a series of antibiotics that works with it, or a series of treatments that work with it. Where in the beginning we thought that it was all just in the breathing. It maintained a relationship to the lungs. It mainly took people into death through the process of the lungs. So using inhalation and different types of therapy in order to increase the lung capacity and help the lungs get through that process was really a major thing that, because of diagnosis, that was the major thing that we had come up with. But after a while, come to find out that wasn't the major thing. There are several things that needs to be dealt with, and depends on the underlying condition of the individual and the many different other ways in which we treat it. And if we start off treating it with the wrong drugs, we actually create a whole new symptomatic group of conditions that we have to take that in consideration as our methodology. So science is science. When I'm talking to you, you're talking to a scientist. But when this governor or some mayor or some person who runs politics talks to you, they're not in that methodology. They're not in that scientific field. So there's a lot to be lost in the process, which is mainly lives. Because in order for this to work, it requires everybody to take a scientific approach. Everybody. That you yourself have to make sure you wash your hands. You yourself have to make sure that you wear a mask. You have to make sure that you don't go outside unless you absolutely have to. That you stay away from people as much as you possibly can. You have to make sure you do that. And that's you as a practitioner. You like a doctor, like a nurse. Yeah, you have to practice science. Yeah, and if you don't, we're all dead, because we can't leave this up to doctors and nurses, because then we're just sacrificing them. Yeah, and we're not taking any responsibility. So it really is about everybody taking responsibility, sharing information to everybody responsibly, so that everybody knows that they have to take responsibility, and they can't take this lightly. Doctors can't take medicine lightly. They have to have a very big heart. They have to be willing to really research and investigate and try hard and stay awake and for long, long hours until they come to a solving of the situation. And it takes an enormous amount of courage and effort to pull that off. So just think of these people who are going to help us take care of this virus are doctors and nurses and hospitals and care people. Yeah. And who's got that many people? We've already been through phase 1. Yeah, if we come back through another phase, which we are, large numbers are going up in Arizona, large numbers are going up in Florida, large numbers are going up where everybody went out and had a good time. Those places are having very high spikes. Yeah, so we have to realize that we are really in a medical dilemma. Yeah, it's a pandemic, and it's a flu-like pandemic, which means that it can be transferred or sent from one person to the next just by small pellets of droplets in the air, yeah, or that get on to objects or is passed through your hands. Yeah, so any of that can bring that virus. And if you take it, if you're standing in a subway and you get a virus from the person next to you, that virus immediately takes effect into your system, and the next 5 breaths you take coming out of your system includes the virus. That's how fast it passes. It doesn't take 2 weeks for it to develop and incubate inside your system for the virus to begin coming out. That was a very misdiagnosed process of thinking that there is a incubation period for the virus to take effect. Come to find out, those 16 girls found out in one experiment that that's not true, that it all was spread to each other who didn't have the virus, and each one of them collected it inside their lungs and put it right back out just by having conversations, face-to-face conversations within a foot, 2 feet, 3 feet from each other. Yeah, and that caused every single one of them to get that virus. And that same thing happens in meatpacking plants and other places where people gather together. Meatpacking plants all got filled up with an enormous number of people catching the virus to the point to where they had to be closed down. But our wonderful president took it upon himself to take the law in hand and make sure that all those people go back into those meatpacking plants and go back to work, and they're not to be closed. Those people are forced back to work, and they're forced to have to sign a contract that they will not sue the meat packing plant if they die or get ill or their life is destroyed forever. Yeah, just simply because they followed the instructions of obligation put upon them by the President of the United States, where every person has a human right, every person has free will, every person should not be forced to be in a position like that, or they're going to lose their job. That you might as well be Hitler, you might as well be some dictator with a complete heartless attitude. Yeah, you have to put it upon the farmers who are growing these cows. You have to put it upon them to process those cows independently in small ways where it's safe, not in a packing plant, but in a small independent farm processing plant. Yeah, and if it's done that way, then each person, it can be in a very small stall, alone, dealing with a particular product. Yeah, and they finish that product and it moves on. And they're not in contact with a whole bunch of people inside of a production line. Yeah, it's the production line that's killing people. It's the production line. Yeah, people gathering together like that. So there are alternatives. It doesn't take. I'm scientist and all this kind of stuff. So thinking this way is not a difficulty. But this is something that all of us have. It's part of our general education. We should be developed to this point to where we have enough science, knowledge, understanding. When things come up, we have a way of being able to discern and discriminate and respond accordingly, correctly, without having to follow the directions of a president. Yeah, because this is wrong, very wrong. Yeah, we as a people have to choose to eat a whole lot less meat because we're putting people into packing plants to give us this meat. Yeah? So you have to make real choices as to who you're getting this from. You're getting it from a mom and pop farm, a little place where they're actually doing all the production themselves. They grow their own farm and everything else. You could do this. You can just check online, find these places. They're probably fully, just really busy. Yeah? But this is the way we have to go. Yeah, and there are so many people that need jobs and need to develop in that way in order to provide the needs that we have. But if we lower those needs down dramatically and buy things of alternative protein, not carbohydrates, but protein, and then develop a relationship to eating less meat because it's not sustainable during a freaking pandemic. Yeah, you got to think about this. Because right now, Trump is not thinking about that. He's thinking about making sure we get hogs to China and that they get their ribs and that they get all the things that they need, because they buy a good 50 to 60% of all the hog meat and other meat that is produced in these packing plants. The packing plants are not open for Americans. They're open for outside need. Yeah? So we need to really step in and take responsibility for our fellow human beings, and not think that someone's going to step up for them, because no one is. Nobody. Not their the group that's supposed to be supporting them. Their independent, process of whether or not they're, what do you call that when you a union? Yeah. They say your union is supposed to protect you, but how is a union going to protect you in a condition like that? Yeah. And the president isn't doing anything to protect anybody. Yeah, so it's really up to individuals to make sure that they take the right position as to what they're going to do, and the obligation of whether or not they do it or not. There's a whole lot of people not working and they're surviving. It's not easy, but they're surviving. And they're doing it because it's healthier for them not to be in public and not to be in situations where they're working in groups. Factories have been shut down all over the place. Why do we have to do this for meat factories? Yeah, I mean, these are very high, intense growth points. Yeah. So if we just take responsibility that we will eat lighter, we'll eat some tofu, we'll eat more nuts, we'll eat things that are protein-based, maybe add fish, if we find that easy. Yeah, because it's probably not affecting that much of those people out there on trawlers and things of that nature when they're pulling it in, So there's probably other ways that our protein could be gotten and ways that we can make a difference. So really it is about us as a public, us as a people. So now we have Trump asking people to go to a mass gathering. Yeah, and these are the most unhealthy people in the United States. Yeah, the majority of these people have diabetes. The majority. I'm not being prejudiced or anything, saying that these are lowlifes or anything, but these average people who follow Trump are people who, live a very normal, average, everyday life, but in a lower level, to where they really have a hopeless scenario, and they're totally dependent upon whether they're Republican or Democratic. They're not making a decision. They're following a party. Yeah, and he is the party. And he's the one who's screaming the loudest and makes a lot of lower mind kind of decision that supports any lower mind that those people might have. So he's a great spokesperson, but he's just leading people to the slaughter. And we're going to see within 2 to 3 weeks after this event, masses of people dying, masses. I mean, there'll be probably 10,000 people inside this event, and his daughter, his son-in-law, and his other son, maybe even his wife and him, are not going to be wearing a mask. They are going to be hanging out with people. Everybody's going to be coughing and shouting. What happens when you shout? Does it affect things? You might want to consider just what happens when you shout. Here's what the head of
The pandemic is accelerating. More than 150,000 new cases of COVID-19 were reported to WHO yesterday, the most in a single day so far. Almost half of those cases were reported from the Americas, with large numbers also being reported from South Asia and the Middle East. The world is in a new and dangerous phase. Many people are understandably fed up with being at home. Countries are understandably eager to open up their societies and economies. But the virus is still spreading fast. It is still deadly, and most people are still susceptible. We call on all countries and all people to exercise extreme vigilance. Continue maintaining your distance from others.
For us. Hi, Morgan. Good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning to you. And these numbers really are concerning because it now means that Tulsa has the highest number of cases in the entire state. Now, all that said, when you look around and you see these people that have been camping out for days, you realize their priority isn't necessarily COVID-19, but being inside that arena when President Trump takes the stage for the first time in months, pandemic or not. This morning, last-minute questions about President Trump's return to the rally stage in Tulsa. Overnight, the BOK Center requesting the campaign provide more details, including steps the event will institute for health and safety, including those related to social distancing. This comes as the state Supreme Court is set to rule on whether or not attendees must adhere to CDC guidelines for both face masks and social distancing. The Trump campaign promising temperature checks, hand sanitizer, and masks, though not requiring anyone to wear them. The president predicting a massive turnout, even as coronavirus numbers surge in the state.
We're going to be in Oklahoma, and it's a crowd like I guess nobody's seen before. One of the reasons we chose your state, as you know, Kevin, was that you've done so well with the COVID. You've handled it incredibly well.
The president and Republican Governor Kevin Stitt touting the state's coronavirus record, even as Oklahoma reported its highest single-day increase, 450 new cases, 120 of those in Tulsa alone.
We're ready to get things back to normal, get life back to normal.
Local health officials pushing the president to postpone the rally.
We are in a spike, and it's not a spike like this, it's a spike like this. You don't have to be a rocket science to know that this rally puts us at risk.
Saturday's rally being touted as a, quote, pro-Trump festival, featuring musical performances as well as about 50 high-profile supporters flying in for a show of force. The president reportedly planning to address both the packed arena as well as an overflow crowd and a nearby outdoor stage. Oklahoma activating the National Guard to assist police this weekend, noting they expect upwards of 100,000 people downtown, including a large group of protesters. Back at the arena, supporters say the risk is worth the reward.
Experts say we're 6 months in and the coronavirus is winning. In Asia, as you mentioned there, China, South Korea, these were places that in the beginning contained those local outbreaks. They're now seeing a resurgence. We spoke about this all week in terms of what Beijing is doing, in terms of halting some flights and having children go back to virtual learning. In Europe, Germany is really the one to be concerned with at the moment. A meatpacking plant had hundreds of workers test positive. They tested over 1,000 workers and 730 of them came back positive. Latin American era, which at one point was really shed early on from the pandemic, is really the new epicenter, especially Brazil. And then, as you mentioned, the United States, it's these Sun Belt states. It's Texas, it's Florida, it's Arizona. They're seeing higher hospitalization numbers and they're seeing higher case numbers. The worry is, what does this do to the hospital capacities? And there's a critical limitation, and we know, and that is, of course, hospital staff. I have to say, the tables have turned a bit when you look at New York and Florida. At the height of the pandemic in New York in March, Florida had New Yorkers quarantined for 14 days. Now, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is thinking about doing that. If you visit from Florida and come to New York on Monday is set to reopen into phase 2. Restaurants, dining outside, as well as
Arizona reported its second highest number of cases in a single day, trailing only yesterday's record jump. NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hilliard joins me now from Phoenix. And Vaughn, how are state officials reacting to this record number of new cases?
Well, we should note, Allison, there's been no changes as of this moment. Governor Doug Ducey, the Arizona governor, will be holding a press conference with the press here at the top of this next hour. But as of this point, it's now been more than a month since the state allowed its stay-at-home order to expire. And there have been no changes in terms of policy from this governor's office. Essentially, most everything opened up. Restaurant and retail opened up in early May. And then places such as casinos and water parks opened up on May 15th. And what you have seen since then is exponential growth. Exponential growth. You've seen more than 11,000 cases, Allison, in just the last week alone. Hospitalizations are at a high. The most ICU beds being used to date are currently, is the current situation right now. What you have seen here ever since the state reopened was just a climb in.
So it is not over with, yeah, and it's nowhere near being over with, yeah. And as long as things like this continue on, it'll grow. But we have a great president, and he's gathering 10,000 people together to make them all sick, yeah, and that will throw 10,000 people into the United States the very following day. And now those 10,000 people who are very ignorant and totally believe that this is all over with, yeah, are now coming out coughing on other people in restaurants as they're driving home, yeah, in the hotels that they're staying at. You know, all the people there will be in an incubation scenario with all these sick people that are all have the virus, tens of thousands of them, as they're passing through the United States going home. And that will spread like you can't imagine. And there's not a thing I could do about it, and there's not a thing you could do about it other than realize what I'm saying is true, and that this is going to get a lot worse. And it's not just because of Trump, but it's because of the fact that we're not taking a scientific, valid responsibility for what is going on. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Yeah, you have to do correct work. If we had a nuclear holocaust take place and everything was radiation outside, you would not go outside. Yeah, you would not eat the food that's out there. You wouldn't ask somebody else to go outside for you. Yeah, and you wouldn't gather people outside in a forum of 10,000 people so that they will continue electing you as a president during this nuclear holocaust. Yeah. That's what we got going on. It's just that's kind of like an exaggerated thought form of how bad would we behave during a nuclear holocaust when we have to stay inside or we get sick. Yeah. Well, now we're in a pandemic, which is extremely close to the same thing. It's invisible, and we have to take 100% responsibility and not continue thinking that we have to leave responsibility up to the president or a doctor or a nurse who's going to take care of you. Because you have a very high chance once you get this, you know, it's downhill from there. Yeah, and now you're in the middle of a group of people with everybody's got the virus. Yeah, the whole hospital's got the virus. And your doctor is so ill-equipped to continue working tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. And you would rather have a fresh, nice doctor who's taking care of you, and your friends and relatives can come visit you while you're sick and all this. But you can forget all that. You have a very sickly doctor who is totally panicking on a day-to-day basis, and nurses who are often corner crying and not well, and they want to leave and they don't want to come back, and everything is in a complete meltdown in the place that you're asking to get healthy. And this is only going to get worse. Only going to get worse, because not a whole lot of people is going to run to college and go be a doctor and go be a nurse after this, or a bunch of people to go to, EMT school. There's a whole lot of people whose their whole direction along that way has just dropped. Because they don't want to see themselves in that situation. Picking up a bunch of pandemic people at home, wearing from head to toe complete plastic garb. Yeah. That's where we're at. And that you got to keep it in your mind that is still continuing. These are still happening all around the United States, all around the world. Yeah. It's a pandemic that we have no vaccine for. And as long as we don't have a vaccine, then we have to treat it as though we can get it tomorrow just by coming in contact with another person. That's all it takes. Coming in contact with another person. Yeah. If you stay at home, you'll be fine. But if you go out, you're raising your height of chance of getting the virus every time you go outside. Then you get closer to a group of people. Even though you're not in that group, you can still receive the virus. Yeah, so you've opened up your opportunity to get it. Yeah, and yet our minds aren't thinking that. We don't have a mask on. We don't have these things on. We're not in our protective environment, keeping ourselves protected. It's just the way we have to behave. There's not another way around it, or we're going to take this virus home and kill our mothers and our fathers and our grandfathers and our little children and our loved ones. Yeah, I've seen people who had a family of 5, now they only have a family of 1. That's pretty rough. These are young kids and old people, all died. So it can happen to you. It can happen to anybody. This is a really terrible virus. This is not the flu. Do not trust Trump when he diagnoses anything. Consider the science. Look it up. Take the time. So just know that things are going to get dramatically worse as of tomorrow. Dramatically. And the spiral is going to go up dramatically. And the tens of thousands of people who have the virus are going to be spreading it. And there's no way for us to control that. Law tried to stop him from doing it, but that didn't help. The fact that he was doing it in the location and on a date that was for Juneteenth, and he knew nothing about Juneteenth or slavery or the end of slavery or anything of such things, but that's his ticket. Is that process of ancient historical enslavement of humanity and a heartless behavior that comes with it. When you send people back to the meat factory, when you tell people to go back out there and get those stock market tickets back up and make sure all the economy goes back up so he will look good and be voted in again. To him, that's all, everything is accounted to that. So don't pay attention. This is a terrible time for us to have the pandemic in the middle of a voting season with a crazy-ass president that's going to draw everybody into some kind of party for the next 6 months. Because this is just one. He loves to have these events. And he's going to have these events every month until he's elected. So, I'm only talking to just a few people, but share this info and be awakened a little bit more as to what is going on and why this epidemic is going to surge massively month after month after month. We have to find that, my God, we can't have football teams, we can't have big baseball events, we can't have concerts. Well, we certainly can't have Trump events or any other events like that. It's not that we don't like Trump, It's just that we don't want to kill people. So it's really important to be compassionate, empathetic, and listen to what I'm saying. So let's meditate and see if we can raise this consciousness into some kind of place that affects masses of people who are drawn by this. There, I'm back again. My camera went off. All right, so just repeat after me. I invoke the power, the love, and the wisdom of my ashram, soul, and monad. to guide me into the right activity in the plan, to clarify and stimulate my mind, to transform and transmute my feelings and emotions, to energize and vitalize and heal my physical and etheric body, so there is a normal flow of energy in my physical and etheric body. Through this day and every day, I ask this in the name of the Christ to serve the One. All in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay, take a deep breath. Okay, just take it easy. Relax. Open your eyes. So, a lot is taking place. Few people really knew of Juneteenth. It means June 19th, and back a long time ago, back I think around 1921, there used to be a community in Tulsa that was a black-led community. It was very large, not like a city, but a community, and it had banks, it had lawyers, it had judges, it had municipality, it had stores, it had shopkeepers, it had businesses. They were highly educated. They were what would be normal for people who were allowed not to be slaves anymore and had the freedom and rights to do as they should do as a human being. And in the years from the time of slavery in the late 1800s to the 1920s, they were free, and they led free, and they lived free, and they existed in a free way in which expressed themselves as their true nature. Nothing different between them and the neighbors across the road who were of a different race. They all had the same abilities. They were given the same opportunities. They received those opportunities and just took advantage of them as any other normal person would. And they flourished just as any other normal person would. But that got to the process of those people who were in town and of the Ku Klux Klan and of other divided nations, of belief systems that this is not right and these people needn't have these rights and these justice, types of behavior to where they could live a life and be actually probably better off than a lot of other people in the rest of the other communities. So jealousy ensued, and an enormous amount of jealousy, to the point to where one day a guy, I think he was running an elevator, and a lady got inside and she ran out screaming, and everybody jumped to the conclusion that he had done something to her that was a violation, and he should be taken to jail immediately, and he was. And in that process, the lady stated that nothing happened. She just got freaked out, and she went running out of the elevator, and she was very sorry it took place. It was just something that shouldn't have happened. But nobody took that as evidence. They completely dropped what she had to say, and they continued the process, and a riot took place over that from the people of that town. And the people of the community, they had a war, between the whites and the blacks. And the whites decided that they would arm airplanes with like Molotov cocktails and fly those airplanes over that town and start bombing the town. And they burnt the entire town down. And a lot of people died. 300 people died. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people were left without homes. And it never was really built up in the same way, in any way, shape, or form. The bodies were scattered throughout town. No one has any idea where they're located. And no one is able to deal with it in a humane way. Their family members and all the people up to today. Some people are still alive from that time, So it became June 19th because that was the day that it started, and it ended. And in the process of it ending, it reestablished the rights of the black people of America to have equal rights to that of any other person in America, and that they should be treated equally in every possible way. No reason whatsoever to treat them any differently, and try and bring that into effect. And this is a whole nation that's going to try and do this, rather than just one community, one county, and things like that. So where it did get pulled off. So now we are really, truly pulling this off, and it comes from this dark lodge of people like Trump and other people who carry those ridiculous flags of the Confederate and carry KKK thought forms in their minds, that there's some kind of animal characteristics of the black people that is so inherent to the animal, inherent to a monkey, inherent to a lower race, because of this Darwinian belief system that we all come from animals. Especially the monkey, and having that ridiculous belief system. And then we look upon our human race and we go, oh, look at that. That looks very similar to the monkey. That got to be way back at the time, just before we became human beings. So all these black people are just the lowest class of the human being, and this is very much a Darwinian statement. That's how it was looked at, and that's how people interact in this world. They look at Asian people in the same kind of way, in a peculiar way, because long ago they've been programmed to believe these kind of crappy ass things, and then we'd use them as slaves or employees of the lowest possible level. So it's not just black people. It is our prejudice. It is our lack of ability to let go of these things that keeps us from having peace and prosperity all around. It's prejudice, it's jealousy, it's enviousness, it's the vices of Satan that get into people creating what's known as separation. And it's separation between the states, like the Confederate, and all the processes of war, and all the process of states, and all the processes of things that we deal with in competition. It's separation. And that power behind separation instills in people anger and hostility and violence and ruthlessness in order to win. And if you look at Trump, who is he? Everybody's a loser. Who the heck is he? He is Trump. He trumped everybody. Yeah. He is the lowest of the lows. Yeah. And yet he's got a claim to be the highest of the highs. And because we're in a world to where we've been taken over by false kings, every single king and queen has always been made king and queen by their own hand, by their own mind, by their own greed. Every dictator did the same thing. Yeah, they might have a little band of people around them, but it's just a process to externalize a delusion of grandeur that's facilitated out of an individual. And this guy's got it by spades. Yeah. And it's a really big process for us to have to cope with. So we have new groups of world servers. We have people who are collectively around him. This Bolton guy, you know, his ability to be in the position he was in, to stand in the same room with him all throughout different countries and be able to witness his true behavior and then be able to put that in a book and share that with us. Because there's no way he would have been kicked out as president during the early stages when this was starting to be investigated. This is going to take about a year or so after he's out of office for us to actually uncover all the way back to his father all the process of corruption that this man's been involved in. You know, and trade, you know, we're not talking trade, we're talking traitor. You know, a person who has corrupted himself as a weak person who goes into these really big countries that are like Hitler driven, you know, like the Nazis, you know, all the way to Russia. And he makes best friends with Russia, and he even marries into it. He buys the whole entire thing, puts himself into a Russian surroundings, you know, and puts himself into a process to where he's in right relationship to Russia, but Russia is using him. Yeah, it has nothing to do with them trying to get him into office. They're trying to screw up everybody. They're messing with all of us. They've been doing it since the time of Russian communism. They wanted to destroy us, wipe us away. None of that has changed. That's still the process. But this guy doesn't seem to get that. He doesn't seem to understand that. It's the same with China. Yeah? They're communist, and so is Russia. Yeah, you know, so you don't walk in there and start bartering deals and ask for Trump Tower to be built and special deals with China. Buy more pork, buy more rice, so that people in my farm community will vote for me. Yeah, he did that. Yeah, so it's those things that we have not just to uncover, but we have to witness it. We have to watch this. This is judgment time. You're not the one being judged. Satan's being judged. And the power elite, who are the pedophiles and the money mongers and all the people that I kicked ass, you know, when I was Jesus. You know, during that time, I kicked a lot of ass, yeah, and I riled a whole lot of people all the way to Caesar, yeah, and I made this thing completely, everything fell. Rome fell, everything fell, you know, from my actions, yeah, so that temple fell because of my actions, yeah, everything went down, yeah, so that's my process right now. I'm in process of doing the same thing, turn it up, flipping it up into the air and have it come back down. And when it comes back down, it will be sustainable. It will not be controlled by monetary belief systems that the richer are the rich and the poor are the poor, and there we will stay. We'll live off that and we'll build off that. Nope. This all goes up in the air, comes back down, and it is divided amongst everyone equally because we do not buy the land. If we move into that process and come to understanding, through a long period of time, we come into greater and greater understanding with Native Americans, we'll come into an inner consciousness of ourselves that we can let go of the one thing we think we have to own, which is land. Yeah? And we can't own land. That's the one thing we can't own. Yeah? And all food that we receive, we have to realize it comes from God. A lot of effort went to create this food, to manifest it into our belly, to give us life. Yeah, to create the air, to create the birds, to create everything that's in manifestation, it's God. And unless we have that relationship connected, you know, with an understanding from prasadam, then we don't understand land. We don't understand anything material. Yeah, because it's all about God is the one who creates this material world. Now, what do we do with it? Are we the caretaker of it, or do we kick God out and own the land? Yeah. So that's the process. It's just a matter of witnessing what's going to happen. I am here. I am pushing things to the wildest possible degree. You cannot imagine all that's going to take place between now and the year 2030, but what's going to happen out of it is that evil will be judged, and you will witness it being judged, and you will see how it will wreak havoc upon humanity as it's being judged in order for it to show its power and end that cycle of power. Yeah. But as that cycle of power ends, it's going to mean that they're going to put a lot of pressure on pushing people to do the wrong thing and believe in the wrong things rather than things of truth and things of right relationship. So just chill, take it easy, it's okay. We're going to be all right through this thing. It's going to take many years and process of a lot of people going through what they're going through in cycle after cycle. But after this thing's over with, which would be about 15 years from now, we'll come to another side. We'll have the vaccine. We'll know what the vaccine's like. We'll change our lifestyle. A lot of things will come about, and it'll get grounded out. And we will have behind us the memory of Trump, and the memory of the Pope, and the memory of pedophilia, and the memory of all these different things that were right in the process of just getting started. They were just taking birth. Yeah? Because we're just into the first 4 years of Trump. It's just taking birth. We didn't really know it was going to be like this, but it just took birth. Now we can vote him in again and let it fully mature into a complete being of demonic spirit amongst all humanity. Or we can cut it off at the pass, shut it out, and have far less destruction and have it unveiled before us as he goes through his own personal judgment rather than taking us all down with him. Yeah. So please, everybody, be at peace. Take it easy. The outcome will be peace. That's my process. But in order to attain that peace, we have to eliminate the process of lunar lords and lunar energy. Yeah. So please take it easy.